Hi, we're Gabriele and Angelique. Welcome to the AI and Digital Transformation Podcast. Here at G.M.S.C Consulting, we sit down with AI professionals around the world and discuss successful use cases related to AI and its digital transformation applications.
Join us every month as we provide you with lessons learned on how you can integrate AI and digital transformation solutions into your company's system. Stop feeling left behind as we show you how AI can be a useful and practical tool to implement digital transformation solutions in companies of any size and scope.
This month, we'd like to share with you our conversation with Adebayo Awofuye, an AI practitioner and educator from Nigeria. In recent years, we witnessed the educational gap growing in many countries as the pandemic disrupted the way we taught our kids. AI tools proved to be effective in helping them pass exams and do remote schoolwork. While these tools are far from perfect, we cannot deny the potential of using AI to improve the existing educational system.
Adebayo shares with us the story behind Blueberry, an AI tutor platform he built with his team in his previous job at SteamLedge Limited. We discuss its potential and limitations and how different it is compared to other natural language processing tools like the recently famous ChatGPT and chatbots. During this episode, we explore the importance of customer research, the ethical risk of cheating, and what are other possible scenarios, different from teaching, in which we could apply a technology like the Blueberry Virtual Tutor.
If you find this episode useful, follow us on your favorite podcast streaming platform and share it with your friends and colleagues. Listen now and start learning more about how an AI personalized tutor can help close the educational gap in Nigeria and how a similar technology could be applied to different domains and maybe to your own company. So, welcome everyone to our first episode of the AI and Digital Transformation Podcast. I'm Angelique, and joining me, of course, is Gabriele.
Hello.
So, this podcast aims to understand the different use cases or practicalities behind the implementation of artificial intelligence and on how people can implement digital transformation strategies in real life in different business situations. So, joining us today is Adebayo Awofuye. I hope I pronounced it correctly. He's someone who's very passionate about artificial intelligence and hopefully democratize AI in Nigeria. So welcome, Adebayo, to our podcast.
Hello, Angelique and Gabriele. Thanks for having me. Awesome to be here.
So maybe since no one knows, no one's really familiar with our podcast yet, maybe you could also introduce yourself, like what you actually do and what you actually do.
Yeah, what you do and maybe a few words about your history and what led you to be here with us and what are your goals in the future also, like who's Adebayo and who wants to be in the future.
All right, awesome. I'll try to answer as much as I can. So hello everyone, my name is Adebayo. I am sentient being here on planet Earth as far as I can tell, on a journey for truth. I'm an entrepreneur by profession. I passionate about AI. Co-founder and CEO of Gamma Prime. So what we do there is we're trying to democratize access to AI. As we all know, that AI is progressing in leaps and bounds, and so we really want Africa to also be able to participate in this artificial revolution and not just be under the weight, but also try to surf it. So it's a little bit difficult because it's not something that is like really evident. So one might argue that there's a lot of issues in Africa, like, education, hunger, and all that. But at the same time, the countries that actually learn this tech and actually know how to apply the tech, these are the companies that will, lead the future. And I think it's about time that Africa really gets serious about this.
And what led you to start your own company, and what would you like this company to be?
Right.
And what would you like your company to do for the future of your country, Nigeria?
So I didn't really start a company because I wanted to start a company, right? I started a company out of frustration because I was really looking for some way to participate in this AI revolution, and to build this tech. But it turns out there was so much we could do that I couldn't do it on my own. I also wanted to build an autonomous car in Africa. At the same time, there was also these things moving about with NLP, computer vision, AI for healthcare. There's just so much to do, and I just saw myself being torn apart into different areas that I couldn't really focus on one thing at a time. And that it became evident to me that this is because this might be the case that I'm not the only one facing this, right? There might be, and there actually are, a lot of smart people here that don't have access or don't have the mentorship to learn these things in a structured manner. And so this is because we don't have companies or industries here that are actually pushing this AI tech. We do have industries in the ed tech, but it's more on the education front. It's not on the how do we build startups and actually create AI tech, right? Real solutions in the market. So that's what led to the creation of the company, M-Prime. How can we make sure that startups around Africa are a reality? It's not just something that we just learn about AI and we go work for companies abroad, right? How can we actually bring these things locally?
I think that's the best rationale, to start a company out of necessity. That's usually when there are the best odds for its success, because it means there's a real need for it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I wish you can achieve your goals, and along the journey that brought you to start a company, you faced several interesting projects in the AI field, and today we are pleased to discuss one of these projects that you did with us. So maybe, what do you think, Angie? Maybe we could ask Adebayo to give us a brief overview of the project you work on before maybe delving a bit more into the details and how this project could translate into others' reality.
So I think it started right at the beginning. So I joined a company called Steamlet Limited. So Steamlet Limited is an educational tech company here in Nigeria, and they were the first company to have institutions who have instituted technology curriculum within schools. So not just like a technology curriculum as an aside, but actually within the curriculum. So we have trustees that will go to different schools within the states and teach students as part of the curriculum. So they could have mathematics, physics, chemistry, and then on the timetable they'll have tech. Right? And then we come in and we teach them AI, robotics, programming, VR, just these things that will actually help them in actually placing a job, because these skills are needed. Right? You can't just graduate high school and just know math, physics, chemistry. You have to know these things. Even in college, right? These are skills that you would need. So of course that wasn't scalable because we can't have trustees in different states, right? So how do we make this scalable? So we then decided to make it online. So that's something that went well. And then just like any great company would have to think about what is the future of our company. So looking about the tech space, what is the new thing, and how can we make sure that we future-proof ourselves, right? So that was where I came in. So we co-founded the R&D department. So the R&D department was was the department I was kept in charge of. And the mandate of the department was to come up with a product that we saw that would push us into the future, right? So I had to come up with the product and to convince the stakeholders that this is something worth investing in. So the product came to mind after I did my research was personalized tutoring. So there's an edtech company, how can we make a personalized tutor, right? And I think that's something that if you have that is the future, right? Personalized education. Okay, so I had to build the proof of concept, which is basically just a computational engine. So I actually started with the sciences, so with math, physics, and chemistry, just because that's my background, so it's easier for me to do. So it was a team of one, just me. So I had to build something that was fast, and then because we had like a few months before we didn't have something, the R&D department will have to shut down. So I had to build this. I built the proof of concept of how do you ask an engine a particular question, let's say in physics, mathematics, and it will give you a step-by-step solution how to solve this. Of course, the way you ask the question was very, very structured, since we didn't have a fancy deck. It was just like ask a question, how do we solve this, and it solves it. So I was able to pitch to the stakeholders, and we got decent amount of funding. So the next task was to staff the R&D department. So I had to train 100 plus developers remotely to then flesh out this tech. The proof of concept became a real product, which we call Blueberry. So Blueberry was a personalized tutor. It was an AI tutor that helps students kill their JAM, WIC, and NECO examinations. So JAM, WIC, and NECO examinations are like SAT and Cambridge. Well, they're the West African counterpart to that. So it's actually a little bit more simple than SAT and Cambridge, although students here will tell you otherwise. Right. So we had to build that out. We did build it out. It took us a while to do that. Because we had a lot of issues, really. As with any new, this was basically like a startup, right? We actually had to build the MVP, demonstrate market traction, and then flesh out the whole idea. So we had a lot of issues with that, and I can talk about that more if you want.
Yeah, we could talk about that, but my question would be because not many are familiar with Nigeria, I think, including us. And so maybe could you try to describe the educational landscape in Nigeria? Like, for example, when I did a bit of research on what's happening in Nigeria or in Africa in general, your government, I think, is targeting to have 95% literacy level in the country by 2030. No, yeah, 2030. And that one guy wrote about the 5 ways to build resilience in Nigeria's education system. And one of those cases is to develop a data-driven education system, which is something you are doing with the Blueberry Personalized Tutor, I think, by integrating AI into the exam preparation technique, I think, or system in Nigeria.
So actually, the education space here is really, really good. I'd say Nigeria ranks amongst, along with Ghana, the top performing in terms of West African examination. So it's not really that there was an issue there. The issue basically was that we saw a dilapidating state of exam scores, right? Every year, the difficulty of these examinations became easier, and at the same time, the scores became lower. So it was like the education is trying to catch up with the state of the nation, but the state of the nation is not even catching up with the dwindling curriculum. So we can't continue to to reduce the vigor or the difficulty of the examinations just because students were failing. So traditional education here is about memorization. How do you recall things you just memorized? And that's because most schools are teacher to student ratio is very, very large. You'd see one teacher is teaching 100 plus on average. Even in the private schools, we have one teacher is 15 or so, or 10 if it's a very, very good school. So that actually was the case, or is the case. And so we can say, we then said, how do we change this? So this is where the personalized learning came in. If you could have your own personalized tutor, then you could have a 1 teacher to 1 student ratio, which is something that is completely unheard of. We have more students having access to smartphones than they even do laptops. So we had to make it very personalized and mobile friendly. So that was the market analysis we did to say, okay, yeah, this is something that would work and this is something that we should do. Yeah.
And do you think this Blueberry app, is this available for anyone in Nigeria, like for any kid in Nigeria, or is there like a fee or something like that? Because I know that maintaining also the Blueberry would cost, I think.
Yeah. So currently the app is under it's been pivoted. So, and I can talk about what happened. So it was on the market, but it got taken off because we didn't really have our market fit initially, so we had to pivot, and so it's been pivoted now. So can't really have access to it as we speak, but hopefully in the future, in the very near future, it has product market fit and it does what we wanted to do. It was in the market for about a few months, but I'm not sure if it's still available now.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting solution that I think would apply to many countries that could benefit for this virtual personalized tutoring, and actually not just like countries that maybe have an issue with a good students to teacher ratio, but also countries that maybe are have a very sparse population and have issues in accessing schools because they live maybe in remote areas. So that's also very interesting. But I think since the goal of this podcast is to also showcase these interesting cases and AI applied to digital transformation, I'd like to discuss a bit how this project could translate also to other areas, because I think in general, this idea of having a digital tutor can really translate not just to education, classical education, but for example, also education of training also in companies that could benefit from this kind of solutions. And I mean, I can really see a wide pool of possible application in industry for training, in even in government for letting the population know about policies. So what do you think are the possible contexts where this kind of solution, where you have an AI system that somehow tutors the person, could be applied aside from the domain where you applied it, which is like school education?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I think to understand the other domains it could apply to, I think I need to do justice to understanding how it actually works. So I'll just explain how it works, and then we could discuss about those applications. So the way it actually works is, like I said before, there's a competition engine, right? This competition engine is what you can think about it as a less glorified calculator. So you could ask it to solve different things. If you ask it in a very, very specific way, it will solve everything in mathematics, physics, chemistry, basically, right? But then students don't ask those questions and those bits go away, right? They have to ask the question in natural language. So we have to build an AI level, NLP level on top of that. Like, how do we parse natural language and then translate that into the right function calls to solve the problem? So doing that, we needed to, I talked about the technologies we used there, but then we realized that it was not very conducive for students to type in questions all the time, because the majority of these students already have questions printed out where it's solving it on paper. So visual but output will be something that we saw as being beneficial. So we had to build a vision layer on top of that. So think about it as a computer vision layer that understands your handwritten text, and then it translates the question into the natural language text, and then that gets parsed, and then it calls the right functions, but then gives you a step-by-step solution depending on the curricula. So if it's Y, it gives you the step-by-step solutions. This NECO gives you the right ways to get the high scores. With NECO, this G.M.S.C, it's the same thing, right? So bearing that in mind, places that this would probably be beneficial are sectors where you have a finite range of possible scenarios. So the reason why this worked then was because there's a finite range of possible questions one could ask for math, physics, chemistry at that level, right? If we wanted to build something that can answer any math, physics, and chemistry question at all, then that's something we could do. But because it's a finite level, and we just need to understand what the user is asking, and we know whatever they ask, there's a solution, but we just need to know what question matches to which solution there. So you can think about it like customer representation, a customer service, where they say, okay, like with banks or with financial institutions, there's a limited amount of issues one could have. And so rather than having to go to the bank and having to sit down with a customer representative, you just have like a chat bot that understands financial language and then say, okay, these are the questions and these are possible solutions. And if the solutions are outside that range, we could then connect that to an actual human being. I think this something that all exists, but it's not as fine-tuned as we were able to do with this product. So we really fine-tuned it, because the last time I checked, I still had a transaction issue with a bank last week, and I had to use the app. So, chatting with the chatbot was not really good. So like I asked a question and it gives me the same generic, like it's actually basically, you don't need the chatbot, just give me like a bunch of buttons, I just relegate as my promise. It wasn't really responding to the questions I was asking. Whereas with Blueberry, depending on the question you ask, it knows, okay, you can ask clarifying questions, and then it hones in on what you want to find out. And also, as you raised with the education aspect, you want to train, like with corporate trainings, I think that it's possible. However, we'll need to tweak the engine, because the engine is not really built to train you. It's built to answer your questions, which is one of the issues we had in the market, right? Which I can talk about later. We didn't build engine to literally say, this is how you solve this, this is how you solve that. We just, if you ask the question, it will give you the answer. Just like a very smart student in the class, you ask them the question, gives you the answer step by step. But if you wanted to train it in the corporate world, you did need to fine tune that a little bit to be able to give more expressive answers than what we have.
In a way, so with this app, it's like it just gives you the answer. So if you want to actually have intuitive learning involved, you need to also have some human intervention, because I think, machines still don't have the capacity to guide, I think, students or whoever is learning to actually ask themselves how do you reach from point A to point Z or to point D? Like, it will just skip all those other steps and then arrives at point D and point Z and say, okay, this is the answer, but I will not tell you how we did it.
It will actually tell you every little detail. It depends on how much detail you actually want. So it actually accounts for every type of student who actually knows all those things and just needs to know like high level. But I was saying with the corporate train was, imagine if you wanted to use this as a train, right? You have to build the data set for that, and then for corporate training, it appears like there's a finite goal for that. Like there's a set way of this is how we want to work at this company. So there's not much leeway into, okay, you can do this or that way. So it's just, this is the answer, right? And I think it actually worked now that I even think about it, but it's not something that we've thought about. The one I see it actually working with will be the customer representative, or things that have a very finite domain where you can just, there's different ways of asking the question, or even health. Like, okay, there's different ways of saying I have this egg or have that egg, I have this symptoms. But then there's a finite list of things that should be wrong. So.
And I think it's important to stress that it is possible to turn a chatbot into a system like the one you devised, and that sometimes, because oftentimes people think of chatbot like something relatively stupid, because those are very general purpose chatbots. And they usually have a degree of fine tuning. That means that there is a general algorithm that can be slightly optimized for the task that you have. So let's say some, for example, like the company assistant chatbot. But really, companies that would like to implement some digital transformation should be aware that that's just the first layer, and that you can really build something that has a high performance on a finite set of answers, and that if it's a custom solution like the one you developed, Adebayo, not just the natural language text, so not just like the text of the speech can be used, but it can be integrated with other sources, like for example, like a chatbot that assists people in debugging, for example, the dishwasher. Why is the dishwasher not working? Like they could easily take a picture and add the picture together with some text that describes the problem, and a customized chatbot could put together those information and give a much more accurate and consistent answer. So it's really like the chatbots can be much more effective than they are, but it's more a matter of a cost-benefit trade-off. Just when does it make sense to build a customized chatbot? When should I not use the general solutions? And in this, I think it's important to ask for the consultancy or the assistance of an AI professional like you or like our company here, G.M.S.C, because the AI professional can tell you that, well, you can just go with this general chatbot, you can use this solution where you have some degree of fine-tuning, or no, you should really go and build your own solutions. And this usually takes us to this first part where there's an interaction with stakeholders, and that's usually a very critical part of any project. So I think it's important here to ask, like, did you have any issues in the interaction with your stakeholders, and especially communication issues? Like, what do you think a stakeholder who wants this kind of solution should know or understand internally before reaching out to an AI professional to ask whether build or buy this kind of solution?
True, and it's somehow like a UX or user experience kind of approach.
Also.
So understanding what clients want, what the stakeholders want, what's the purpose of this app or tool that you're developing, and cost benefit analysis.
So what are the issues that they buy in your case?
Oh, we had a lot of issues. I can even tell you that at the time the product was a complete failure when it came to interacting with the stakeholders, just because because it was like a startup and we were really excited about having this AI tutor, right? We didn't really do our due diligence on the customer side of things, though we did in the beginning, but we didn't do enough. So we just had like word of mouth. Yeah, I think this would be nice. Yeah, we'll actually subscribe to this. Yeah, if you do this, we'll actually subscribe and stuff like that. But once the product was actually built, then we whole different kind of issues were coming up, which would have been mitigated had we done our customer research a lot more vigorously. So issues like students can actually use this to cheat. So how can we prevent that? Well, now that is a social issue for the school, right? But then the kind of throwing it back at us, like, how do you stop cheating because your system is making them cheat? Whereas it was, we had talked about this in the beginning, that we'd have known, okay, beforehand, how we build safety nets into the system that will prevent that. So I would really stress, the business side of things. As an engineer, coming from someone who has an engineering background, it's our I think business is one of our blind spots. It's something we easily neglect, but that's something that is really, really necessary to hone in. So before we actually built anything, we should have closed the business deal. Okay, this is what we're actually going to use it for before we actually went into building that. On the customer side, clients, I think it's a completely it's unnecessary to build a custom system these days. I think you could fine tune a lot. Any company that's actually building anything custom probably hasn't really done its research, and like there's a lot of things you could fine tune, you could reuse. So if we were to do this again, I wouldn't build anything from custom. And when I say custom, I don't mean like it's not customized to the client. Of course, it's customized, but I mean in the development of the product, you have to do everything from scratch. You could fine tune a lot of things, and ChatGPT has shown you that. Yeah, shown the world that just a chatbot can be very, very powerful. And I look forward to the day when another company, maybe Stability AI, releases the open source version of it, so we can start fine tuning ChatGPT on custom workflows. That would be really exciting.
Speaking of ChatGPT,
Yeah, I think actually I'm happy you brought the Chat GPT-3 up, because I think it's an interesting point, because it's a difference between a chatbot that is designed to work on an open set of answers and the chatbot that is supposed to work on a closed set. And everybody is so excited about ChatGPT-3. So for our listeners who don't know, ChatGPT-3 is basically now as we record, so it's the end of December 2022. It's like the most advanced natural language chatbot that is available. It's a closed source chatbot, so we cannot really know as professional what's behind it, and it can really reply like a human in many contexts. The problem though is that even though it can be impressive, it's not necessarily accurate. So, and it really depends a lot on how the question is made, because sometimes it can prove something that's actually wrong just because the user asked ChatGPT-3 to prove that it's correct. So I think it's very cool. I think it has a lot of potential, but I think that as it is right now, it's probably not usable yet in many contexts, like the one you worked on, Adebayo, where having correct answers is not negotiable, and having a correct answer is more important than having a cool answer that sounds very friendly or human, or having an answer, that is expressed in the language of the 16th century, like ChatGPT-3 can do. What's your take on this?
Yeah, we're talking about the limitations that it has, and some of that is the accuracy of solving things that require accuracy, even for just general information. Sometimes the information is not really accurate. Talk less of if you're trying to solve all these mathematical problems that need to be very accurate. So I was saying that I think ChatGPT, as it is now, would actually benefit from some kind of a calculator where I could go and make those kind of calculations and come back to give you the answer. Just something that a human mind would do. We don't actually make those calculations off. We have a notepad or something that we calculate. So I don't see those limitations as being a big deal. It's something we can actually completely overcome with just a little bit of feedback calls. But of course, we are we have this tendency to want deep learning to do everything, right? You just have one particular model and it does everything, which is historically hasn't been realistic. So yeah, ChatGPT is a paradigm shift, and it's something that had it been in existence when we started this project, it would have made life very, very easy.
And well, I think we discussed several aspects of this solution, and really stressed how this solution can translate to other domains. And we even discussed a bit about how the newer technologies can improve even further. And this kind of solution can really extend the range of possible applications of AI that companies can use. And hopefully, those kind of solutions won't be closed source as they are now, but they will be open for everybody to use, so we can really have a democratic approach to AI and not like this closed source where all of these AI is in the hands of a few corporations who have the amount of money necessary to train these huge models. So, but that's another chapter, I think. And so I think we really covered a lot of topics, and we gave a lot of nice suggestions, I think, to companies who would like to implement this kind of solutions. And so we'd like really to suggest everybody who has a very similar solution desire. I mean, any company who would like to implement this, they can of course reach out to Adebayo. We'll add the details in the description of these episodes of his new firm, and which is a focus on education, of course. So
I think that's a wrap for our first episode. And if you guys would like to listen more about our conversations on implementing AI and digital transformation at a practical level through stories and through interviews with other people, you could try to subscribe to our podcast and follow us.
Yes, thank you to our listeners, and thank you very much, Adebayo, for joining us and sharing your story and your use case with us. It has been a really exciting episode.
Thanks so much, Angelique. Take the part of the shit you had planned.
So, bye everybody, and to the next episode.
Yes. Bye.
Bye bye.